Welcome to Books, Dreams, and Financial Things, where we talk about marriage, blending our family, finances, and our dreams. We hope while sharing our journey, you can relate and learn with us and from us. Welcome back. We are back this week with talking about changing for your spouse.
Changing for your spouse. So don't get, as soon as she told me that topic, the first thing I thought was like, changing for your spouse. You don't want to change for your spouse. You want to be who you are. But stay tuned, listen to what it is that we're stating with regards to that, and it will all make sense.
I think that's the thing. I think a lot of people are always like, I am who I am, and I'm going to be who I am, which, yeah, at the end of the day, who you are at your core, it's probably who you're going to be. Like, once you turn 5, really, like, it's pretty much who you're going to be. However, I think there's different, characteristics or just different ideologies that you may have that might not be accommodating to your spouse, and that's okay to kind of tweak those. I mean, I think it's important to tweak things in general. As you get older, as you learn more, you may change your mind about different views. So doing that for your spouse, to me, is no different.
Right. And so, yeah, I mean, one of the things you realize is even yourself, even though you sort of kind of have core stuff that you're doing or what you believe in at 5, as time progresses, there's stages in your life where you're going to change it eventually anyways with regards to certain beliefs and certain stuff. Right. So it's very key. So as you guys know, the last episode, you've seen the flower that I had presented that are actually still in this office. But we had a very eventful weekend. We had a lot of fun. And, so ultimately I was surprising my wife with the weekend. She knew we were going to do something, but I surprised her with some stuff. And let's talk about that a little bit.
Well, let's just back up a little bit. Let's just start with the fact that normally, or just in general, you are really a big birthday person.
Right.
Like that just came from how you were raised, you're growing up, past relationships. And I'm the complete opposite. Birthdays have always been a big deal in my house. With my parents, everyone's birthday, always a big deal. So when we first, we're starting to date and met, I didn't think it was that big of a deal. I figured, he'll see kind of how I am with birthdays, and, he'll come around, and then I'll have these birthdays that I kind of expect, to be honest. Because not only do I expect it, but I feel like I give them, So I think that birthday should just be a big deal. The minute you wake up, you should be celebrated. From the minute you wake up to the time you go to sleep, happy birthday, just all the hoopla. But, you've never really been big on them.
No, and a lot of that deals with obviously growing up with a single grandmother with 7 kids. And then my birthday being 2 days before Christmas.
Right.
I got to stop adjusting that. 2 days before Christmas. And, and so, my birthday was always sort of kind of like shoot in with Christmas, or I got to open up early Christmas presents. And yeah, I hated it, but then you become accustomed to it. And then, eventually when I was able to celebrate the birthday on my own, one of the things I realized is it was always tough due to the fact that it's 2 days before Christmas. That's the last day people are trying to shop for Christmas, and they're doing late Christmas shopping and all that type of stuff. So it became tough. So for myself, I would always just buy what I wanted during that time span, and then that was that. So I never really had an official birthday. My grandmother said I had one when I was very young. I don't remember that one I don't remember like an actual physical birthday where people come and sing happy birthday and all of that. And yeah, that's happened over the course of the year, but like an official birthday besides my 37th birthday when you invited everyone and all that was about almost 3 years from now. Right. But nevertheless, that's why I was the way I was. And then like she stated, she was crazy on the birthdays. And so it was hard to adjust. And this goes into what we were talking about in our topic.
Right. I mean, so most of yours, it would be like, not that big of a deal. Wake up. And then you would just be like, take some money and get what you want. And for me, it's like, I don't care if you spend $5 or $500. I just want some thought. I just want it to be like a thoughtful thing. Like, even Keone, like, he got me those balloons. I mean, it didn't cost a lot of money, but it was just a thoughtful, and he had you get all that thoughtful thing. Well, this year, the first year in like 8 years.
Yeah, because I to be honest with you, all these time, I'm still, in my mind, I'm like, I don't want to plan this stuff. I don't want to do it because I don't want her to like or dislike certain stuff. You never know, even though within this element, I found stuff that she liked a little more than the other stuff. but I would just rather give you the money. But
Right. And I just always hated that. So I would just
Right.
plan my own thing. I mean, I would have great birthdays, but I would just like plan it myself.
Right.
But yeah, this year, I mean, you really outdid yourself. I mean, I keep on saying he, but we went on a staycation to San Diego, went out to eat, which I was kind of like, this is, okay. I mean, we went to a
Right.
steakhouse, which is your favorite.
Right.
I don't even really like steak, but
Right.
I was like, hey, at least he did. At least he planned it. I didn't have
So
to
I'm
plan
still
it.
learning. I'm still learning.
So I was just like, okay. And then I suggested going to the Sugar Factory.
Right.
This is what really got me, because I suggested it because I had a
Right.
group on. I'm like, hey, maybe we could go there for dessert.
Right.
And you were almost acting like, whatever. Like, you weren't pushing. Like, yeah, let's go there. You're just
Right.
like, okay, if you want. And then we get there, and then all these people are there.
Right.
He planned for people to meet us there. Which really got me is they said you planned it on Monday. And, the birthday was Friday. So to
Right.
me, I'm like, what?
Yeah, a week
Like,
beforehand.
normally, if anything, it might be like the day before.
Right.
So I was just like really, really surprised. And to me, that was just so thoughtful to have, some of our friends and family meet us out to celebrate. And then we went out afterwards, felt like I was 25 all over again. We had a great time. And the next day was great, went to brunch, went on this cool tour, go-karts.
Right. Go.
I mean, it kind of wasn't working, but still
Right.
it was really cool, especially the concept. And it was just really relaxing and nice. So
Yeah.
thank you very much. I definitely enjoyed myself.
Yep. So the reality is, I guess I wanted to talk about the surprise and all of that type of stuff because what I had planned was obviously eating at the steakhouse. I knew ultimately that you didn't necessarily like that, but I wasn't sure of what place to go to, and I didn't want. The whole point is to surprise you, and you know
Right.
what I do. I always find a way to tell you so that way I get an idea of whether you like it or not, right? Because I'm a very picky person a lot of times when it comes to that type of stuff, especially when I was younger. And so, it was always tough in that aspect. But nevertheless, that was planned, the food. And then after that, I wanted to go to a bar or something. But after talking to my sister, Tony, she convinced me because the steakhouse, the Sugar Factory was right around the corner from that spot. So she was just like, hey, let's go here. And I didn't even know she chose that spot because it was closed. But she just was like, hey, let's do the Sugar Factory. And it made sense because my mom was coming and, she probably don't want to be in no, at a bar or nothing like
Right.
that. And plus it would have been loud to hear and all of that type of stuff. So it was the Sugar Factory. So before she mentioned it, I knew we were going to go to the Sugar Factory. I just wasn't sure how I was going to get you to go there.
Right, because I was low-key ready to go back to the hotel. I
Right.
was like, listen, I'm trying to
Right.
change. Because he had me out there like super overdressed, which
Right.
was overdressed for that time, but wasn't overdressed for the rest of the night.
Right.
So like he said, it worked out. So
And
I was like,
ultimately, she says overdressed, but I don't believe so. I believe it's your birthday. You look the way you want
I
to
was
look,
doing the
but
most at
obviously,
5 p.m.
right? Maybe I'll put a B-roll in here and show you guys the actual dresses she had on. That was nice. All you guys who are my friends and family on Facebook, you've probably seen that lovely red dress that she had on, hottest all get out. But I thought she looked great, and yeah, I had on a button-up with jeans, but then I had nice shoes on. And so I didn't think anything of it, but I wanted you to stand out. And I didn't expect for you to get a red dress, but you got a red dress, and every single person who saw you
Right, yeah.
was
It
complimenting
was
you from the daytime all the way through. But nevertheless, moving forward to the actual going to the Sugar Factory. So I already knew that, but I planned the dinner at 5 and we were supposed to meet at the Sugar Factory at 7. So I figured 2 hours would be good enough. It'll take us about an hour and a half to eat. And then I would get her to walk around. But of course she had on those shoes
Heels.
that are nice.
That were hurting my feet
That hurt your feet. But you
already.
put that numbing on there.
It did work at the bottom.
Right.
But I
you
forgot to
didn't
get
put it
that
on the
top part.
So it was nervous and getting around. I thought you knew because my sister kept texting me
Right,
about
and then
questions.
he accidentally texted me.
Oh.
And I was like, and so I'm just like, see, Tony was trying to help you out. I
Right.
had no idea she was coming. I'm just
Right.
like, oh, look at sis trying to help out. And you weren't listening, per usual.
Right.
So I had no idea. Because all the people who were there, they were texting me very normal all day,
Right.
acting like, oh, what are you up to? Like, not even
Right.
on no suspicious way. Just like,
Right.
I'm like, oh, I have no idea. I just know we're going to San Diego. That's it. That's all I know.
Right.
Like, oh, okay. Like it was just a regular day. So I was just like, what? Even my brother who, like I was thinking, like we were talking about, like he always shows up. It's so interesting to see how this is so off topic, but how
Right.
that relationship has just changed because, he's 7 years older, so he's
Right.
always like my way older brother. But since we
Right.
became adults, he's like, the friend, like he always
Right.
comes to our stuff. And so I definitely appreciate
Big
him.
shout out to him. Yep.
Yeah.
Because he comes to everything. We
We went to Vegas.
Right.
He was there. He just be showing up. So appreciate him. But I mean, we say all that to
Right.
say that, you went from just not getting not getting it,
Right.
to the point where almost I was anticipating for my birthdays to kind of just be like, blah. Like, to be honest, if I'm honest, my
Right.
friends would always be cool with my parents, but I was just like, okay, I'm not going to expect you to care
Right.
that much anymore because you just don't. So
Right.
it is what it is. And that's kind of unfortunate. If you're someone who, is big on holidays, you want your significant other to be big on it as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just really appreciative that you got, hey, 8 years, sometimes you got to be patient, It
Right.
took 8 years, but here we are. Now I'm like, this is the standard. This is the standard now.
Right.
To just, I just felt really special all day and just appreciated and celebrated. So it was nice.
And what I will say is that by doing that, because every other year I would get her what she wanted, but there was no surprises. There was not a lot of the hoopla that comes with it. It's just like, here's the money, do what you want to get, and go.
And this year there wasn't any actual gift, but I didn't care. I don't feel like, oh, well, you didn't, because everything was just so perfect. Of course, I know you spent money on the whole thing, but that's what I'm saying. It wasn't about, to me, birthdays are not about a gift. It's about just making me feel important and special. And I think that's what, that's what we saw this year. I mean,
Yeah.
I loved everything.
And I think I focused so much on a gift because I never got the gifts. You know what I mean? So
Right.
ultimately, because I didn't get that, I always thought that's what I wanted. And a lot of times that's what you think everyone else wants. So within your mind state, because that's what I thought she wanted, it took me 8 years to actually really sit back and say, okay, every year, yes, she's satisfied and she gets what she wants for her birthday. But what she really wants was what happened Friday night, a surprise
Right.
at the birthday party where everyone comes
Right.
and you did get, a card.
I got
and
definitely
that
gifts
stuff
and
in the
stuff,
morning.
yeah.
Right.
But I don't need to be surprised every year. It's just like I said, just like the thoughtfulness of saying, let me do, and that's what I think we're talking about here. You got to just kind of take yourself out of yourself and be like, what does my spouse want?
Right.
Like you're more of, I want just what I want. So
Right.
I just try, but I'm a little bit better just listening to kind of what,
Right.
and so I still get you what you want and still is a surprise.
Right.
So I still kind of do what I want, but also what you want. So I think that's important to really know your spouse and say, okay, not what I like or what I would do, but what do they want?
Right.
And that's just what we mean by changing. It's not about just being a completely different person because at the end of the day, you fell in love with that person. So it's not saying don't be that. It's just becoming a little bit more accommodating.
Right. And it makes a lot of sense because the reality is, we as human beings and creatures as a whole, we're sort of kind of selfish and we want what we want, right? And then we sort of kind of push what we like on other people. And sometimes it may take 30 days for some of you guys who are smarter, and some people it may take 8 years. I'm sorry. It took me 8 years to actually really sit back and say, hey, what does she want? And I won't include, let's say 7 or 6 years, because I'm not including the first pandemic year, because that year no one could go out, no one could really do anything.
But that year was actually cool because we had a little birthday party at my
Right.
mom's and we went to Vegas.
Right.
So that
But
wasn't bad. But,
I'm
I
saying
mean,
in
it was just
general.
always something that I've planned. I think
Right.
that's just my thing because I'm always, planning everything, in terms of with the kids and everything that we do. So just to have a day where it's not necessarily where I have to be surprised, but it's where you take the lead in planning. I just,
Right. It
I
meant
love that.
everything.
Yeah.
Right.
Did.
And so, so just understanding that was cool. And you know what? At the end of the day, this has got to be one of the top birthday parties you had, and that was just by actually listening. It's almost like, biblically, what was it? God's chosen people. A 40-day trip took 40 years just because they wouldn't listen to what the commandments or what was said. In my situation, something that could have been so simple, which I've known in my head, but because I just stuck with, okay, this is what I'd rather have. And I would make excuses because I would ask her. So if I asked her, oh, do you want this or this? And then I would have something else in mind, she would be like, choose the other thing. And I would say, okay, that's great. And how it all started was with a ring. I had an idea of a ring and I was going to buy that ring. Until this day, she will admit, thank goodness I asked her because she did not like the ring that I would have gotten. She told me what she wanted, but it worked out because she gave me an idea of what she wanted, and then I went out and proceeded to do that. Same thing with your birthday, same thing with your spouse in general with regards to everything. You find out what they like, obviously, and then with that, you plan and do the right stuff with regards to getting what it is that person likes, and it makes it a lot better.
And there's things that I've learned and still learning, and that's also like mainly the way I communicate, because I'm more like, hold it in, I'm just going to wait, trying to keep the peace, you know, I'm not going to stir any feathers, where you're just very like, I'm feeling this way, I'm going to tell you.
Right.
And so I'm really still learning, and 8 years later, how to communicate in a way that works for you. I mean, yesterday I think was a prime example. You said something and I thought something.
Right.
And normally I would have just held on to that. I'm like, wow, like he was kind of throwing some shade. Like, well, but I was like, you know what, I'm going to ask him what he meant. And then we realized, oh, that's not even, you know, how I took it was not how you meant it.
Right.
And it was nothing. Whereas it could have been, you know, I'd have been holding on and we had an argument. I'd have been like, well, remember that? Did? And so it's just like learning, you know, a way to communicate that works for you and vice versa. You know, it's just about constantly learning and constantly changing. Because if I'm just like, well, this is just how I communicate. Like, I just like to hold it in, and that you don't have to deal with it. Like, what? That doesn't work for me, though.
Right. And how are there gonna be any growth?
Right.
You'll be stuck at that point until you realize that, hey, the way that I communicate and the way that you communicate is different, but we have to accommodate. So if I'm talking to you, I have to be a certain way. And if you're talking to me,
so he's got to be a little bit more tactful.
Right.
And I have to be a little bit more, what would be the word, like straightforward, because I am, a little bit passive aggressive, and I got to just be like,
this is what it is.
Right.
This is what's going on.
I think that's a problem in relationships, where people just are so stuck on how they are and they don't want to budge.
Right.
And then you end up it just not working out, because it's like, I don't want to keep on feeling like I'm hitting a brick wall. You know, I want to feel like, okay, I'm telling you how to express yourself or how I want this to happen. You don't even care. Like, that's crazy.
And the reality is, it took time, obviously, to learn it. I mean, I'm saying just with regards to the birthday and the gift type situation, but even over the course of our relationship and understanding, because once you start digging into that stuff, it's something as simple as a birthday gift, and what she likes and what I like during that time span will start pouring over in everything else in our life. But we had to go through some counseling. We had to learn some of that stuff. Some of it the hard way, some of it easier than not, and still learning, right? Constantly learning, because we're going to constantly evolve, and it's going to be different stages in our life with different stuff. And so the key thing was communication, right?
Right. And I think that's why, you know, people who have been married like 10 years, 15 years, they get into this groove, because it becomes like, okay, now I really know you. But also, I remember hearing someone talk about, like, but as you change as an individual, you may have to now change again within your relationship. And I think that's important as well, because I'm constantly, you know, you're learning different things and you're becoming a different person, and I'm learning and becoming a different person, and different things may happen, you know, even just with how my parents are now. I feel like that's like has changed me a little bit, my perspective on a lot of things. And so now we have to adjust to even that.
Right.
And so you have to just be open. You can't feel like, okay, it's always going to be the same, because nothing is going to be the same.
Right. Something may happen. You may learn something. You may have an epiphany on something. And the reality is, I think, and we haven't necessarily talked about this, but I think that we understand that if something new comes with regards to something she learned or something along those lines, communicating it doesn't necessarily mean I have to believe it and she has to believe it, and that's the only way we're going to be able to move forward. But understanding and communication with regards to certain stuff will make things a lot better. Because if I got some type of epiphany or something that I believe that should have happened, there are lots of things that I've said in one stage and just like, well, hey, I get what you're saying, I'm just not there, and vice versa. But then eventually, as time progressed, we'll realize whatever it was that we were stating or saying was either right or let me not even say right or wrong, worked for us or didn't work for us. And that is key. It's not about right or wrong. It's about what works for us and what doesn't work for us. And many years it didn't work for me to do the birthday the way that I did it. And finally I got it. And so now I get it. And it's not about money. The reality is, I could have just woke up early in the morning, made sure I had some flowers, card, and whatever. I had the boys standing in attention, waiting to give it to you as soon as you come out of the bed, breakfast. And she would have been just as happy as she was with all the stuff that we did during the weekend. And mind you, spending money with regards to what happened. We used reward points. We'll probably do a whole nother podcast explaining that, how we use our credit cards and how we were able to get this whole staycation.
Because that's a whole, especially because I know a lot of you guys are probably like how I was regarding it, just not really understanding it and being like, what?
Whatever.
But I mean, I saw it with my own eyes, how it really like literally paid for an entire weekend from our hotel stay. But we'll talk about that for sure.
Yeah, maybe we'll talk about that the next podcast. But nevertheless, it's very, very key you guys understand that you are open to criticism, you're open to understanding and hearing your significant other, so that way and you're listening to understand and not listening to respond, which was a big issue that I've always had. I've always been on the defensive, but with regards to that, and that you're trying to understand your significant other with regards to everything, so that way it makes life so much easier for you guys.
Right, and just putting yourself in their shoes and being like, oh, what would they want? What would they like? Not making it about yourself, just trying to do what the other person, likes and wants.
And that makes life so much easier, right? It's something so simple that we don't get at times that'll make things a lot easier. 40-year trip, 40 days. If it was just listen. 8-year situation could have been done in 1 year. But hey, we learned it. I learned it now. And so now there's no excuse every other year after that. If I mess up again, then that just means I don't give a you know what. So that's just what it is. So that's that. And that's why we say that with regards to relationship. We're constantly growing. We're not perfect at all, but we're trying to learn with you and grow. And you guys learn from us as well. Next week, we figured out our topic. We will talk about the credit aspect and how I'm going to just give you one little nugget. Use your credit cards like debit cards. That's a key with regards to building the perfect credit profile. My wife has seen, I've pretty much been the head over that, but for the most part, we've worked as a team and we were able to get to where we're at as a team, piggybacking off of each other. And I'll explain all of that next week. So stay tuned for that. And any household items being, you want to talk about your Frugally Keto really quick?
Oh, sure. Frugally Keto turned 1 on my birthday, so that's what was exciting. If you're interested in losing weight through keto, eating really yummy, healthy food, not necessarily having to work out, but you can definitely do that as well. Definitely check me out on www.frugallyketo.com or on Instagram, frugally_keto. I'm also giving away a free meal plan. So if you're interested in just what to eat to get into ketosis, or if you're just needing 5 new meals, check that out as well on my website. And
Yep. So that link, it'll be click the link. You probably got to just put your first and last name, your email, and boom, you'll get that that meal plan for 5 days. And then obviously we talked a little bit about credit. I own a company, Clear and Strategic Credit Repair Services. Constantly getting people. I have a YouTube called Ask a Debt Collector. It's called that because I was in the debt collection industry for over 15 years. Some of you guys who follow know that. I did transition to credit repair. It is way more fulfilling, and it's great. It's better because I'm giving education and teaching people how to get their credit in the right stage. And I'm not talking just from doing other clients. We're talking from experience, from where, we went from the 500s all the way to 750 plus, even in the 800s, and we have over 6 figures of personal credit available on credit cards. And so we'll talk about that, how we were able to get that staycation and so forth with regards to that next week. Thank you guys for tuning in. Be sure to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Be sure to join our Facebook group, as well as we have an Instagram as well. Books, Dreams, and Financial Things that we're going to get that rolling and get that going as well. So check us all out on all those platforms. We love you guys, and we'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.